Today, I will show you my honest crypto tier list, so by the end of this video, you can finally see which assets to consider, not based on luck or feelings, but based on coaching hundreds of people online.
How are we doing?
So let's dive into my crypto tier list for today. Let's get started with one of those assets out there, which is Bitcoin. Bitcoin, I'm honestly going to put Bitcoin on the third spot, on the C spot, and the reason for that is pretty simple. If you go to CoinGecko, honestly, my website of preference, way better information as opposed to CoinMarketCap. You can see Bitcoin already has a whopping market cap of $2 trillion freaking dollars. I love how the US keeps talking about billions getting added to Bitcoin, but if we look at the overall market cap, and if we look at how that has been inflating over time, it would be wise to say that it takes a lot of money to make massive returns inside of this ecosystem. Not just that, this bug that you can see right here allowed miners to actually create more inflation. There have been multiple so-called native SegWit updates where Bitcoin has been inflationary. And yeah, just in general, if you look at the overall idea of mining Bitcoin, you can see how in 2009, you could mine one Bitcoin using a setup like this in your living room, whereas today you would need a full room specialized of machines with specialized machines, each costing thousands of dollars. So if you look at the overall electricity, it's definitely way less bang for your buck. The second one that I want to spend my energy on is going to be Solana. Solana, I'm going to put on D, right? Where I honestly believe that Solana has been a lot about hype and has been a lot about yeah, overall like meme coins and all the good stuff. I'm not the biggest believer of meme coins because they get born today and they die tomorrow. By only going to the Solana market cap, you can see how also Solana has been inflating like crazy. If you zoom out, you would come to a conclusion that it has been inflating for over 250%, with 20% in a shorter run, which is more than the actual dollar inflation. So people are tired of the centralized system getting their traditional money out just to land in a system where inflation is even crazier, right? The next thing that I do want to mention, of course, is, well, actually, let's say DAI. I'm going to put DAI on the second spot here. Why? DAI is way better than something like USDT. I honestly don't trust Tether. I believe that DAI is a great stable coin. It's a combination of Ethereum and the dollar at some point, which to me is very redundant, which is very trustworthy in general if you want to hedge against volatility. Imagine you are a liquidity provider. Imagine you are generating yield. Imagine your positions grow. And you want to be able to stabilize your positions a little bit and hedge against that idea of inflation. DAI honestly is my pick of choice. Now, however, if you feel like at this point you've seen a bunch of my videos and you're like, hey, this guy knows what he's talking about, he has this strategy dialed in, and I would like to see how and if I could learn something, well then go down below this video. You'll be able to open up this survey page, which is going to allow you to give you a better understanding about whether or not we could possibly help you through our proven help, getting success coaches in your corner and getting a cutting edge strategy for this cycle. However, if you'd like to see more, well then let's continue with the next one. This might be a little bit of a spoiler, but I'm going to put Ethereum on place number 1. The reason I love Ethereum this much is because of this. If you look at the supply growth chart of Ethereum as opposed to Bitcoin and Solana, right? Bitcoin is tracking gold more often lately, which is interesting to see. It's an interesting dynamic because Bitcoin is definitely easier to obtain as opposed to gold. Gold is only as useful as the facility that wants to provide it to you. If you look at Ethereum, Ethereum is known to track Bitcoin somewhat at a different type of speed and magnitude. But the biggest benefit of Ethereum is that they have something called EIP 1559. You can see how since 2 years in a row, the supply has been somewhat flattening. And the reason this happens is because of EIP 1559. It's an Ethereum improvement proposal that fundamentally changed how transaction fees are handled on the Ethereum network. It introduced a mechanism to make fees more predictable, reducing price volatility, and burn a portion of the fees, potentially making it deflationary. And this is pretty insane, because if you would look up the idea of deflation on a traditional level, they would say, yeah, it's not sustainable because of this and that. Now, honestly, if you look at the dollar value right now, this is why things are going loose. the dollar is weakening. And the reason the dollar is weakening is because there's something called the global M2 money supply. This is something that shows you total liquidity with money around the world. And as opposed to Bitcoin, or compared to Bitcoin, you can see how Bitcoin, being the green and the red, as opposed to the blue line, which is total liquidity, Bitcoin is tracking that very, very, very spot on. So if you were to go to United States money supply, the M2, you can see how this has been crazy. Even marked of this fraction of inflation around the time of the pandemic. It was transitory inflation to be able to save you, but honestly, they did nothing but printing, and that printing tends to continue. You can even see where it's up last time. Now we are here. So as long as they keep printing, as long as debt gets created, as long as the freaking debt ceiling of the US gets ignored, there's going to be total liquidity that now is leading and front-running Bitcoin, following this and actually taking care of that. Now, that's why I love Ethereum so much, not specifically as the #1 main solution we use. We always look for fair, proven projects on top of Ethereum, meaning there's a public founder that has no founder allocation. It starts at a price floor, meaning there's no venture capital that is inside of the project right before it starts, because then you get rug pulls and all that stuff. The idea of Ethereum is amazing because EIP 1559 is somewhat similar to this, and also the project's built on top of ETH. If you look at this demand curve, you can see how if there would be billions of pizza around the world, somewhat similar to what we see right now, and that quantity goes down to that last unit of pizza that this world would have, the price of this pizza would shoot up like crazy, because honestly, it's just getting scarcer and people want it. And the same psychology applies to the last couple of units in a zone like Spain or in another Florida region, whatever it would look like. This last couple of condos that are getting sold at a higher price because there's more scarcity, right? That's how it happens. Only the last couple of units available now. So the prices shoot up like crazy. Same with art auctions. If the last unit of a Mona Lisa, imagine there's hundreds of them, if the last unit of a Mona Lisa gets sold on auction, people throw crazy money, right? So this is one of the biggest characteristics that makes me really prefer stuff like Ethereum as a chain, as a solution, as sort of the future of money. But also another reason I like Ethereum is if you look at the top inflows right here, you can see how Ethereum is still leading, right? And people love a layer 2 like Base, for example, but you can see how, and this is very, very interesting to me, you can see how in those outflows, Base is actually growing. There's a massive amount of outflows in Base. Now, not to ignore, same in Ethereum, but the inflows are still leading. So one question I had when preparing this video was actually what is happening to Base to see these types of inflows? And what you can see is the outflows, sorry. What we can see is the outflows on Base, which is accountable for $7.3 billion worth of outflows. $6.5 billion worth of that amount is flowing into Ethereum, which is an interesting thing to see because people are getting rid of Base to be able to actually enter into Ethereum. And it's not just individual retail investors. Even if you look at Robinhood, if you look at BlackRock, if you look at Coinbase, they're all partnering up with Ethereum as this solution. Again, the point of this video is not to tell you get yourself some Ethereum. I guess it's an interesting decision. However, all you need to truly crush this crypto cycle is access to the right knowledge and the right guidance at the right time. So there's a bunch of things built on top of Ethereum that will allow you to elevate your earnings without taking too much risk, while being informed and actually setting up a state-of-the-art security layer. If you want to know how I do this for 200 plus people right now in real time, and you want to see if you qualify for my proven help, go down below this video and submit that survey. And actually, if you're interested in the topic of crypto, maybe check this video or that video if you'd like to see more. Wish you an amazing day, and talk to you in another video. Bye-bye.